The kindness that changed everything. The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of Maple Street Cafe, casting warm golden rays across the worn wooden floors. Sarah Michelle wiped down the counter for the third time that morning, her movements slow and deliberate. She had been working at this small cafe for 2 years now, and every day felt the same. The smell of fresh coffee beans filled the air, mixing with the sweet aroma of blueberry muffins baking in the oven. Sarah loved this. Quiet time before the cafe filled with the usual rush of customers. She could hear the gentle hum of the espresso machine warming up and the soft ticking of the old clock on the wall. Outside, the street was just beginning to wake up. A few early joggers passed by the window, and the newspaper delivery truck rumbled down the cobblestone street. At 26, Sarah had dreams that stretched far beyond this small cafe. She wanted to open her own animal shelter someday. Every penny she saved went toward that goal. But for now, this job was her lifeline, and she was grateful for it, even though her boss, Mr. Henderson, could be difficult to work with. Mr. Henderson was a stern man in his 50s, with graying hair and sharp eyes that seemed to notice every small mistake. He ran the cafe with strict rules and little patience for what he called unnecessary kindness. Sarah often felt like she was walking on eggshells around him, but she needed this job, so she kept quiet and did her work. As the morning progressed, the usual customers began to arrive. There was Mrs. Patterson, who always ordered a decaf coffee with 2 sugars. Then came the college students, laptops in hand, ready to claim their favorite corner table. Sarah smiled at each of them, taking their orders with the same gentle patience. She showed everyone. Around 10:30, the bell above the door chimed softly. Sarah looked up to see an older man walking in slowly, carefully. He appeared to be in his 70s, with silver hair and deep lines etched into his weathered face. He wore a faded military jacket with patches that told stories of service and sacrifice. But what caught Sarah's attention most was the beautiful German shepherd walking beside him. The dog was clearly a service animal, wearing a proper vest that identified him as such. His coat was a rich brown and black, and his intelligent eyes scanned the room with the trained awareness that only service dogs possess. The man's hand rested gently on the dog's harness as they made their way to the counter. "Good morning," Sarah said softly, her voice warm and welcoming. "What can I get for you today?" The veteran looked up at the menu board, his eyes squinting slightly. "Just a black coffee, please," he said, his voice carrying the quiet strength of someone who had seen much in his lifetime. "And would it be possible to get a small bowl of water for my partner here? His name is Sergeant." Sarah's heart immediately warmed at the sight of the duo. "Of course," she said without hesitation. "That's no problem at all." She quickly poured the coffee and found a clean ceramic bowl, filling it with fresh, cool water. She placed it carefully on the floor next to the man's chair as he settled at a small table by the window. Sergeant immediately began to drink, his tail wagging slightly in appreciation. The veteran smiled, and for the first time that morning, his tired features seemed to brighten. "Thank you, miss. You're very kind. We don't always find such understanding everywhere we go." Sarah felt a warmth spread through her chest. "You're both very welcome here," she replied genuinely. Unfortunately, this moment of kindness didn't go unnoticed. Mr. Henderson emerged from the back office, his clipboard in hand and his usual frown deepening as he saw the scene. He marched over to Sarah with quick, angry steps. "What do you think you're doing?" he hissed under his breath, loud enough for the veteran to hear. "We don't allow animals in here, service dog or not. It's unsanitary. And giving away free water. Bowls. That comes out of our supplies." Sarah felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment. "Sir, he's a service dog. It's actually illegal to deny them entry, and the water was just—" "Don't argue with me," Mr. Henderson snapped. I don't care what kind of dog it is. Clean that up immediately and ask them to leave. The cafe had gone quiet. Other customers were now watching the uncomfortable scene unfold. Sarah looked at the veteran, who was slowly standing up, his dignity intact despite the obvious hurt in his eyes. Sargent stood alert beside him, sensing the tension. "I'm sorry, sir," Sarah said, her voice shaking slightly. "You have every right to be here. Please don't leave." But Mr. Henderson's face had turned red with anger. "Sarah, you're fired. Pack your things and get out, now." The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. She stood there for a moment, stunned, as the weight of what had just happened settled over her. 2 years of work, all her savings goals, her dreams, everything felt like it was crumbling around her. The veteran stepped forward then, his voice steady and strong. "Young lady, what you did was right. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." He paused, reaching into his wallet. "What's your full name?" "Sarah Michelle Peterson," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. He nodded thoughtfully. "Sarah Michelle Peterson. I'll remember that name." With as much dignity as she could manage, Sarah gathered her personal belongings from behind the counter. The other customers watched in uncomfortable silence as she walked toward the door, her heart breaking with each step. 20 minutes later, as Sarah sat in her car in the parking lot, trying to figure out what to do next, she heard the sound of vehicles approaching. She looked up to see 3 military trucks pulling into the cafe's parking lot. Marines in dress uniforms began stepping out of the vehicles, their movements crisp and purposeful. Sarah watched in amazement as they formed a line and marched into the cafe. Through the large windows, she could see them filling the small space, their presence commanding and unmistakable. The veteran she had helped was standing with them now, speaking to what appeared to be their commanding officer. Her phone buzzed with a text from her coworker Jenny, who was working the afternoon shift. "Sarah, you need to see this. The Marines are here, and they're asking for you. Mr. Henderson looks terrified." With curiosity overcoming her hesitation, Sarah walked back toward the cafe. Through the window, she could hear the commanding officer speaking in a clear, authoritative voice that carried easily through the space. "We heard about what happened here today," he was saying. "Staff Sergeant Williams here." He gestured to the veteran Sarah had helped, told us about the kindness shown by Sarah Michelle Peterson and the disrespectful treatment that followed. Mr. Henderson stood behind the counter, visibly shaking. The cafe was packed now, not just with Marines, but with other customers who had heard the commotion and come to see what was happening. The commanding officer continued, "Staff Sergeant Williams served 3 tours in Afghanistan. Sergeant, his service dog, saved his life more times than we can count. The young woman who helped them today showed the kind of respect and honor that every veteran deserves." Sarah felt tears welling up in her eyes as she listened from outside. "We'd like to speak with Sarah Michelle Peterson if she's available." Jenny pointed toward the window, and all eyes turned to see Sarah standing there. The commanding officer gestured for her to come in, and on shaking legs, she entered the cafe once more. "Miss Peterson," the officer said, extending his hand. "I'm Colonel Martinez. We've heard about your kindness today and about the unjust treatment you received because of it." Sarah shook his hand, still not quite believing what was happening. Staff Sergeant Williams stepped forward, Sergeant by his side. "Sarah Michelle, I made some phone calls after I left here. It turns out I have friends who believe in supporting, people who support veterans." Colonel Martinez smiled. "We've spoken with Mr. Henderson here, and he's agreed that your termination was inappropriate. But more than that, we have a proposition for you." Sarah looked around the room, taking in the faces of the Marines, the other customers, and even Mr. Henderson, who looked like he wanted to disappear entirely. "We've been looking for someone to manage a new community outreach center we're opening," Colonel Martinez continued. "It will focus on helping veterans transition back to civilian life, and it will include a program for training and supporting service animals. Staff Sergeant Williams mentioned that you had dreams of opening an animal shelter." Sarah's heart nearly stopped. Yes, that's always been my dream. The position comes with a good salary, benefits, and the opportunity to make a real difference in the lives of veterans and their service animals. Would you be interested? Tears were streaming down Sarah's face now. Yes, she whispered, then louder. Yes, absolutely. The entire cafe erupted in applause. Even some of Mr. Henderson's regular customers were clapping and cheering. Staff Sergeant, Williams approached Sarah with a smile that transformed his weathered face. Sometimes, he said softly, kindness comes back to us in ways we never expect. Thank you for seeing me and Sergeant as worthy of respect. That meant more to me than you'll ever know. Sarah knelt down to pet Sergeant, who wagged his tail and nuzzled her hand gently. Thank you both, she said, looking up at the staff sergeant. Today you've shown me that doing the right thing, even when it's difficult, is always worth it. As the Marines prepared to leave, Colonel Martinez handed Sarah a business card. Report to this address Monday morning. We'll get your new life started. Standing,